Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of RE043, where I take old stories that I've narrated and update them to modern audio standards. I hope that you enjoy. Growing Rocks, written by Warrior4356. Transcript from Universal Date Scale 13,765,824,615 years from initial reference. 76% into the Telphragian homeworld, translation of local naming High Mother, orbit cycle. 43% through the planetary rotation. Analyst note: the actors in this transcript are designated as follows. HE is the present member of the High Command. A is the admiral who requested the meeting. IO is the intelligence officer with the technical expertise to explain the concepts involved. HG: I understand this meeting is for understanding the circumstances of the disappearance of Orbital Fleet Installation Designation. There was a pause for checking digital notes. 17BM2 in orbit over planetary colony 17B4, is that correct? That is correct, Revered One. Please proceed. Analyst note: there is another pause. Reactions and audio cues indicate a visual representative was brought up. See attached document 7 for the presentation on the events that transpired. Yes, as you can see, as of 7462, we've discovered a primitive species in Fringe System 19G, located in the third planet from their local star, a planet approximately 70% water. As of this discovery, they have colonized their primary moon as well as their fourth planet, 2 gas giant moons, and have the basics of orbital industries started in the inner debris belt. The species was designated humans, and first contact protocols were started. Analysts note: discovery occurred 3 months before first contact. First contact occurred 9 years before this recording. The Telphragian name for our species does not translate as anything other than wet world primitives. An analysis of the Telphragian language can be found in Data Repository 4. First contact was handled by an emissary class officer aboard a discovery ship. Initial exchange proceeded as expected with a Class 3 primitive. However, the lack of a unified system government increased necessary emissary class personnel needed by a factor of 6. From there, can you please skip to where interactions turned violent? I don't need the first contact details explained to me at this time. Of course, Reverend One. The general terms of their visualization as part of our claimed region of space were not disagreed over until we reached the per-cycle workforce tithe. The emissary staff found that this to be a surprising given the local species history indicated. They used their own species as subservient workforce within the last 300 local cycles. When the humans became aggressive and then violent, the Guardians evacuated the emissaries, and a strike was planned to put them in line. I see the strike occurred in 7464, is that correct? Yes, Reverend One. A Type C missionary group arrived in the system and proceeded to announce the final chance to obey before they would destroy a population center on each primary landmass. This was met with refusal and a small group of primitive warships, though using the term seems insulting on our elegant vessels. Unifield shielding demonstrated that their energy weapons were between 3 and 4 orders of magnitude insufficient to cause damage. When they closed, they fired with kinetic weapons, again proving ineffective. This resulted in one of the lead officers making a joke. It appears the primitives have started throwing rocks. This resulted in a 43% improvement in morale and a very boring deployment. Can you please focus on how this deployment resulted in the loss of 3 medium picket ships? Yes, of course. IO, would you please? After energy and kinetic strikes were ineffective, shields were overly trusted. The lead elements were lost after what was thought to be chemical-driven kinetic strikes were demonstrated to be a megaton yield fission warheads. As the point defense systems were offline to protect against the low-yield weapons, the missiles got through, and the detonations proved more than what Picket class could handle for energy dispersion. The Escort class was what was also hit, was able to dissipate energy before the shields went down. From there, point defense drones were deployed, and no further missile strikes impacted the group. From here, the strike proceeded as planned, and observation drones were left in the system. When they returned for the tithe, it was noted the humans had reverse-engineered Picket-class ranks. But, compared to industrial capacity, the quantity of ships in the system was low. The number of vessels present was enough to force a retreat. I see that from there they have done an admirable job of defending their home system, resulting in an increase in status from a Class 3 to a Class 4 primitive. And it was decided we would not exterminate them to try and force them to innovate and possibly join us as a proper galactic-level species in time.
That is correct, Reverend One. From here, the events are expected for their given class. Losses on our side have been kept in drones and slave-controlled vessels until the incident at our closest main fleet base to the humans. Io, would you please explain the incident in System 17B?
Yes, sir. Half an orbital cycle before the incident of notable fleet group arrived in system and divided into 2 groups. All but 4 vessels were smaller than our escort class. Of those 4, only 1 was larger than a line class, and it was smaller than a dreadnought class by a factor of 4. The fleet stationed in 17B was large enough to engage the human fleet if it was at least 2 orders magnitude larger as a whole, let alone divided. The smaller of the 2 groups went around the main solar body, while the larger group began skirmishing with the fleet. The engagement lasted 4 hours. Comparing fleet information to probe data indicates they lost 35% of their fleet to jump drive complications before arrival in system.
That is correct, Reverend One. It was expected the smaller group was flanking force that fled the system when the primary force fled. The plan had not been noticed until 67 hours before the incident. It appears the smaller group modified an iron-based asteroid's orbit at solar periapsis, then coated the body with a material that occluded 99.99% of reflected light. Its new orbit was not noticed until gravitation sensors picked it up on a collision course on the colonial world. The resulting impact has reduced 17B4 into a molten state, and the debris have consumed the shipyards and 46% of the fleet. It appears the primitives have resorted to throwing rocks.
End of story. I'd quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Bushmaster 177, Henry the Red, Caspar Arnholtz, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Elijah Silvercross, Dragzoon WRE, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.